The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and I am Al Warren. My co-host today is Mr. Mike Brown. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing really, really well. It's been a while since I've been in the House of Mystery. You've redecorated.
Yeah. I get, you get tired of the same old look. I mean, It probably isn't boring for people that don't see it too often, but me and the dog keep saying the same thing, so we have to change things.
Exactly.
And it's been real fun here. So you've been busy. You went to CrimeCon, Vegas.
I did. I went to Las Vegas, and it was my first trip outside of Canada in a million years. It seems like a million years, but it was really, really great to see people. A lot of my friends who are also true crime podcasters were there, and we haven't seen each other for quite a long time, so it was a really nice reunion.
Yeah, it's always good to do that. Did you fly or did you drive?
I flew, and boy, were my arms tired.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah,
once.
But no, we flew. We flew out of Vancouver Airport and into McCarran, which is now renamed. I can't remember what the new name of the airport is. It's probably Elvis Presley, but it was my first experience flying outside the country as well. And funnily enough, with Air Canada, you got to wear a mask because you're on a Canadian flight. But once you get to the airport in Las Vegas, you can rip that thing off your face and breathe the fresh, clean, smoky air.
You're lucky you got on it. I was just before you. I was just doing the LA one and back for Sundance Channel, doing a 4-part series. Ooh. And but they made me do the test before I got on the plane, mask, and then the test after you got off the plane.
We still had to do the test going into the United States because we were coming from another country, and we had to have our test done, a negative test done the day before you leave. So it was quite a hassle. But coming back in, we didn't need anything because Canada doesn't care anymore.
They've given up. Yep. It's over. Doesn't matter. The thing I find weird about that is they make you do that test when you're flying, but if you were to drive down, you wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but whatever.
That's okay. It's made decisions by people much smarter than us.
But we have Susan Wingate with us.
I know. So now we're going to find out a lot.
Yeah.
Now, the new book she's got coming out is called When You Leave Me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got another one out, too, called Gag Me. So she gagged someone before they left her.
Oh, dear.
Susan Wingate, thank you for being here.
Thank you both, Alan and Mike, for having me on your show. This is very exciting for me.
Well, don't get too excited. Wait to see how it turns out first.
You haven't had a conversation with us yet. So.
Well, I think it's exciting because I don't travel anymore, so it's fun. I'm living vicariously through both of you.
Oh, believe me, it all comes back. The moment you get on that plane to L.A., it was just all back. I was the seat by the window in a 3-seat. And 2 guys that were both 6'5" and 350 pounds sat beside me. So
nice. Nice.
Yeah. So it all comes back.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting. So now you've written a lot of books. Looking through your kind of your profile and stuff. And where does writing come from for you? Like, how did you get into this?
Well, I was an accountant, so it's a natural segue. Actually, my father, and surprisingly, I found out after my mother died that she wrote as well. My father was a writer. He was an English major, and that's what his bachelor's degree, his undergrad was. From Arizona State University. And so he wrote, but more like a hobby. And I did too when I was a kid, a lot. And then, I had to make a living and really didn't even consider writing as a career choice until later. And then when it really hit was when I was about, I'd say 37. My dad passed away a year later, and I just kept writing. I kind of wanted to honor him and his whole thing that he loved to write, and I found out that I actually did too. There are a lot of similarities with my dad and me as far as he was in acting as well, and I did acting for a while. I was a dancer and did, professionally as well when I was younger. And, performing was a thing in our family. And so, it hit right around, that age where you're turning into, middle age. and then it just clicked.
Boy, I tell you, if my dad was an English major, I'd be worried about what I wrote. I'd always feel under pressure, you know what I mean, to make sure it was up to par.
I did when I was younger. It was very, it was a little bit overwhelming and disconcerting to have him read any of my work when I was younger. But, there was like a lapse during my accounting profession years that I really didn't write all that much, and therefore, there was nothing to show him. By the time I was really writing, he had passed away.
You've got these books out now. Gag Me is out now. So what is Gag Me? Gag
Me is a mystery. It is kind of like cozy noir. It's my new genre. I think Frank Zafiro is also coining that phrase as well. Cozy noir, and it was a little bit of a lateral move off into funny. I hadn't really ever written funny, but it's very. I think it's funny. I mean, maybe others think it's stupid. I don't think not. I have a strange sense of humor, so who knows what's funny, right? But I'm hoping for humor there at the beginning of that book, and so far I'm getting some pretty positive feedback on that.
Well, that's good. Now, when you say cozy noir, so basically it's kind of a noir, like a mystery detective sort of thing with cozy, so no violence.
No.
Okay. Well, then maybe explain what you mean by cozy noir. Then I'm not sure how to take that. Then.
Okay, this is my take on cozy noir. It's everything that a mystery is, a general mystery with little violence and a cat.
And a cat. So the cat makes it cozy. Is that?
Thank God, I hope so.
Well, they tend to do that. Cats do tend to make things a little cozier. That's for sure.
They do. There's violence. There's a couple instances of the F word, although the main character hates that word, and so she says F instead of, the actual word. Yeah. We won't say it F on the radio.
Yes.
F instead of F. So she will never drop the F-bomb. But I think that there are two other instances in the story. And then there's a cat.
Named Lester.
Named Lester. Oh, you're reading about it. Thank you. Yes, Lester.
So,
he's a bad one.
Where did you get the cat from? Like, where does the personality and the idea of the cat, how do you write that in? Do you take that from someone you know or from a cat?
From a cat.
Yeah. From a cat. And his name is Lester. He's one of my actual cats. He is the fattest thing. He's huge. He weighs about 20 pounds. And he's a yellow tabby. And, he needed a story. So I wrote him into a story.
That's awesome.
I don't know about that, but he's in a story.
So you mentioned Asperger's syndrome.
Yes.
Is that something that is related to the main character?
Yes. Yes, she has Asperger's syndrome. And so her take on, she's not very, she's not well suited for social events.
Well, neither am I. Well, how do you develop a character like that? Like when they're not suited for social events, as you say, they've got Asperger's or they're a stage of autism. So how do you write that character without being that yourself? Like, where do you get your inspiration or ideas from?
Well, I've known several people with Asperger's syndrome, and they're interesting to be around, very interesting to be around. So, you take their quirkiness and just apply them to the character. She started talking to me one day, are either one of you writers? I'm sure you are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see?
I'm not a professional writer, but so
yes,
I don't know.
You are.
Stop it. Okay, so you both write well and a lot. And so you know how it is. A character starts to talk to you and you start to write. If it feels like it's going to if it's going to be a viable character and a viable story. Because, there are times when stories just and characters just fizzle out for one reason or another. But she didn't. She had a lot of interesting things going on, and she just spoke to me, and it was a lot of fun writing her.
Well, it's an interesting process. So how do you experience your characters? Do you experience them in visual, like kind of, do you see like a movie playing in your head, or do you hear the voices? Like, what's your experience when you're writing a character?
You mean, am I schizophrenic?
Well,
Is that what
you can't get out without being schizophrenic. So,
right.
But what is your sort of experience now?
Well, I think, like many authors that I've spoken with, it's both. I mean, it's visual. It's you hear it in your head. You hear conversations. That's how this one started. There was an actual conversation that she started, and it was just, it was just fully formed. And so that was nice because it was a fairly quick story to write because it seemed fully formed at the very beginning and all the way to the end. It just didn't stop. And other times you have an idea or just a concept of something that might happen to somebody. For instance, there is one of my stories called How the Deer Moon Hungers, which it's a little bit of mystery, but not much. It's more coming of age and YA, but that one was more of a contemplation about what would happen if there were two young sisters, and one of them, and the youngest one, died while in the care of the older one. Okay. So and things like that. Although I did see the first scene play out. I mean, just very visual first scene. So both. I think very much so both visual and audio. Yeah.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and find mud on your shoes and a shovel by your bed or anything?
I do. There was one time. No, not really.
I've never had anybody answer yes to that before.
Yes, but I live in the woods, so
Well, that doesn't mean anything. So did Dexter, right? I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of that.
Wow, that's interesting. So now your other book here, it's coming out soon. It's called When You Leave Me. Now it sounds a little bit more serious. Right. What's kind of the premise of that book?
Well, and it is more serious, and that's kind of where I tend to write. So Dagny was a real, just a real segue off of what I typically do. It was just like a total lateral. When You Leave Me, I have to go back to 2019. January 2019, my husband went missing. He has dementia, and so I was at a writer's meeting here in town, and I came home and he was gone. I had to call search and rescue, and it was just horrifying. The experience was just the worst. And they found him, and he was fine, although a little shaken, and it was cool here because it's in the Pacific North, and it was cool out. It wasn't cold like it could have been, but it was cool. And so he was a little chilly, but he was okay. So anyway, I knew that I needed to write that experience somehow. I just didn't know how to do it because I'm not a memoirist. I don't like writing nonfiction. I think it takes a brave soul to write memoir. I'm not brave. And so I just waited, and it was during COVID, of course. I started working on another story that I felt like it was going to be something good, and then it fizzled out. And I was like, okay, I'm just not into that. What do I want to write? And as soon as I asked myself that, I remembered an old news article from the local newspaper here. It's called the San Juan Journal, or Journal of the San Juan Islands. And it was in 2009. This is the craziest. And it's a memorable article where a foot washed up on South Beach. And so, that's memorable, right? So, and I had always kind of tucked that away, and I always wanted to use that somehow, but it just never came up.
Yeah. I think that was my fault.
Was it?
Yeah.
We'll bring it back.
He walked with a limp.
Yeah, it's too late now. They're never going to get this on now.
Okay. So anyway, it was pretty memorable, and it all kind of came together for one reason or another, and that story wrote itself pretty fast after I realized what was going to happen, or at least parts of what was going to happen within the overarching story. So yeah, that's what that's about. The concept is Jamie Michaels, her husband Larry, goes missing, and that doesn't have a good outcome. He's gone, and so it's a whodunit type of mystery thriller, psychological thriller.
Yeah, I guess, did you put a lot in the book about Alzheimer's and what it's like kind of dealing or coping with Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I felt that, you really needed to get to know the characters, and that's a huge part of caregiving, and she was his primary caregiver, and so there was a lot of that. And I also, we need to understand her angst at the beginning of the story. We need to know her psychological profile. It's not fun, and unlike my husband, Larry was a little aggressive. He was more like my mother when she had Alzheimer's. My mother was very aggressive and cranky, and she had some real wild schizophrenic events, some hallucinations that were just unbelievable. And so yeah, I wanted Jamie to be, feeling all of the angst that one might with dealing with a difficult Alzheimer's patient that you're the primary caregiver for.
Sure. So do you feel a lot of catharsis writing about something so personal and probably very tough?
It was, not really. I mean, not that I have healed from my mother's, that was like in 2016 when she finally passed away. So it wasn't like I was getting over it. Do you know what I mean? I was well past that stage. And my husband is still alive. And so we're just working through that, but it was different. It wasn't like I was writing me, and it wasn't like I was writing Bob. I was writing two, of course, fictional characters, but then of course he goes missing. That's the inciting event, really, you know. So everything else is completely fictional. The foot washing up actually happened in the islands of the Journal of the San Juan Islands. That was an actual story. My husband actually went missing for just a few hours. But other than that, it is just complete fiction, and I would hope nobody would confuse it, because it's not to be confused. And if you read it ever, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Well, so do you have, like, is there a subtext to what you write when you write a story like this? Is there something, like, I was to take this book home and read it, besides the actual story on the surface and what you want me to get out of the entertainment value, is there a subtext or some sort of point you want me to have?
Yes, I would say that nothing is ever as it seems.
Yeah.
It's just, you hear about certain people doing certain things, and, we can sit in judgment or even, think, but we don't really know until we're in it. So I think that's it. You really don't understand what somebody is going through for anything, not just, dealing with an Alzheimer's or a dementia patient, but anything. So we need to stand back and consider that and become more human from it.
Do you ever feel a certain amount of turmoil or stress or sadness when you write something like that, like a heavy subject or a more realistic subject, at the end of the book, and you get it in there? How do you kind of re-energize after something like that?
Well, again, I'm not writing to get over any kind of psychological issues or any kind of trauma or sadness. I'm writing stories that seem interesting to me, something that I would like to read about. I love reading about relationships. I love mother-daughter relationships. I love sister relationships. I love husband-wife relationships. Those are the three I seem to go back to all the time. So when I'm writing, the only time I'm feeling turmoil or any kind of sadness is when I'm writing the actual scene where the characters are doing whatever they're going to do, the conflict there. But it's not, for me, or I feel like, and it shouldn't be, something that I'm trying to, just spill and vent onto the page, because I would think that would be, again, more memoir, and again, brave.
Yeah, no, and that's what you've got the shovel for.
Yeah, exactly, by the bed.
Well, it's certainly interesting. So, when you write a book, how long does it take you? Like, kind of what's your process when you write? Do you kind of get up and do kind of a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or can you set aside hours and just turn it on, or do you have to be in a certain mood?
No, this is my business, and so it is, scheduled in. Of course, now again, I am Bob's primary caregiver, so I am doing, that. I get up super early. I have a rooster, so I get up really early, and he gets me up every morning around 4:30, and I'm up and ready by 5, sitting down and working on my computer. It sounds worse than it really is. and then by 9, I'm starting to help Bob and get him ready for the day and all of that stuff. And then in between, Bob, tasks, I write. So it's, in the morning for a few hours, and then throughout the day until I just amp out. And then once I amp out, then I start doing administrative stuff and marketing and promotion and that sort of thing. Probably just like you guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you don't, the mood doesn't bother you at all. Like if, bad things are happening, or you're stressed, or, you watch the news for a few minutes, does the mood matter to you, or can you just turn it on?
No, I hear what you're asking. The mood matters sometimes. When things get really bad, or if you get super sick or something like that, yeah, it's hard for me to just go, oh, sorry, I got to write, No, and the news, never turn the news on.
Well, that's a good start, unless you want to get in a bad mood. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Or unless you want one of your characters to kill a politician.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then it's endless, And
then there's that.
Well, I always wonder, because I ask a lot of people in the last few years, especially with COVID, just sort of how they reacted emotionally to it, not so much, with the lockdown and stuff, but just with all the craziness going around. If it sort of stressed them, if they were able to write normally, and some were completely shut down and unable to write at all, while others were just having a heyday, and it actually, their performance got better and more and more often. So I just try to kind of gauge it like that and see where, what's going on with you in that way. When
COVID hit, I was in the heyday camp.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's one of the major reactions. Some people just got it. What do you look for when you read a book? Are you kind of looking for the same type of writing as you, or do you kind of go somewhere else to read?
Well, I read across the board. I read, of course, I read thrillers and mystery and all that, but I love literary fiction and mainstream fiction. I love women's fiction. I have a wide genre list of what I like to read. I read horror. I love Stephen King. And he's my go-to, guy that writes genre fiction, that writes so beautifully that it just makes you go, now look what he did with that sentence. Or he chose that word. You know what I mean? So I read for writing, how well people write. I love reading first lines and first paragraphs and first chapters. It's one of my fun things to do. And then, but I've been reading a lot of women's fiction. But again, literary fiction is great. I've been reading a lot of, Indian writers. I shouldn't say a lot, but, one of my faves is, Jhumpa Lahiri. She's amazing. And just, and I'm also, not just writing and doing, everything else that a person does in their life, but I'm in my final stretch of a master's in creative writing at Lindenwood University. And thank God it's fully online. So, and that will be done. I will be finished mid-July. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll have my master's certificate in August.
Wow.
So I've been reading a bunch of interesting people, and of course classics, but a lot of amazing contemporary literature. Great writers. One guy, Justin Torres, he wrote We the Animals. Amazing story. Just a lot of great writing.
Wow. And now, are you a big social media girl, or do you have a website? How do you like your fans and readers to contact or connect with you?
I have a Facebook page, of course, a couple. I have a book club, Susan Wingate Book Club. My Facebook page is author Susan Wingate. Twitter is Susan Wingate. Instagram is Susan Wingate PHX born, Phoenix born, Susan Wingate Phoenix born. Pinterest is Susan Wingate. I guess so. Although I wouldn't consider myself a girl by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, you look like you're 20.
Oh, and I love you too.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make you feel good. Come on. That's all. It's what we do here.
Good job.
It's all fun. It's all fun. So where do you see yourself going with this? I mean, you started a little bit later in your life, but do you see yourself kind of doing this for another quite a few, like in 20 years, you'll still be writing, you think?
Absolutely. And, I think about when you asked that, this just clicked into my brain. It's a Isaac Asimov quote. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard it. It's, if the doctor gave me 6 minutes to live, I'd type a little faster. Yeah. I think that, isn't that the best? Mm-hmm. I love that quote.
Well, there you have it. You only hear things like this on the House of Mystery.
Right.
Nowhere else. Well, it's been great. Now our guest has been the author of the book that's coming out soon. It's called When You Leave Me, Friday Harbor Novel Book 5. So now this is part of a series?
It's a setting kind of series. It's not like the same character throughout the series. So it's just a series that takes place in the same place.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sort of, yeah. So in a way, Pacific Northwest is almost like a character.
It really is, especially this island, probably not unlike Vancouver Island is, but San Juan Island, where Friday Harbor is very unique, totally different, I would think, from Phoenix, where I came from. So yeah, it's a great character in and of itself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would imagine it's different. The feet washing up, and it's got its own character.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Pieces of the character.
Yeah, pieces of a character. It's true.
That's brilliant. Pieces of the character.
And now the other book she's got out is called Gag Me. Now this is a cozy noir because it has a cat, and we really want you to come see it. We're going to have your books up, and of course we'll have your page up for people to do one click when they're listening to the show, and we really appreciate you being on the show. So.
I really appreciate being on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.